ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. In the Mukundamala Stotra, King Kulashekar Alvar, who is one of the greatest devotees from the Sri Sampradaya, in fact considered to be an incarnation of Krishna Sudarshan Chakra, he glorifies Krishna in choicest poetry, one of the best collection of verses, very popular among Vaishnavas of all sampradayas and all backgrounds. In fact, Srila Prabhupada personally relished the verses of Mukundamala Stotra, and he personally would sing the Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Panjarantam verse repeatedly, and he has even an audio recording of that. This text is dipped with devotion and can inspire the readers and the listeners and the meditators with pure, unadulterated devotion. There are glorificatory verses, there are verses in a mood of a humble offering of heartfelt prayers, begging for protection, begging for purification, expressing one's heart's deepest desire to have the Lord's lotus feet and devotion to his lotus feet as the only possession in one's life. So let's start with the first verse today. King Kulashekara sings, श्रीवल्लभेति वरदेति दयापरेति भक्तप्रियेति भवलुण्ठनकोविदेति नाथेति नागशयनेति जगन्निवासेत्यालापिनं प्रतिदिनं कुरु मां मुकुन्द. King Kulashekara, he addresses the Lord as Sri Vallabha, as the eternal Lord of Sri Lakshmi Devi in the Aishwarya conception, and Sita Devi can also be included in the Srimati Radharani in the Madhurya conception. So Krishna can be Vishnu, Sri Ramchandra, they all can be addressed with the same title of Sri Vallabha. Sri Vallabheti Varadeti. Varadeti refers to the Supreme Lord who's Varada, Varam Dadati iti. He who is the giver, he is the bestower of all boons and fulfiller of all desires. So Sri Vallabha, he who is the Lord and the eternal master of Lakshmi Devi or Mother Sita or Srimati Radharani in Vraj. It could also mean Rukmini and Satyabhama Devi in Dwaraka. Vallabheti, Vallabha refers to master or husband. So Sri Vallabha is the name of the Lord. Sri Vallabheti Varadeti, you see all of these names will have the iti at the end, which could mean a comma or under quotes. You have a name and then you say iti, which means it has the start and end quotes. So Sri Vallabha iti, Varada iti, Sri Vallabheti, Varadeti, Daya Pareti, he who is the ultimate limit of mercy. Bhakta Priyeti, he who is very dear to the devotees, or he for whom devotees are very dear. Bhava Lunthana Kovida iti, he who is expert in lifting, delivering, liberating living beings from the cycle or the ocean of birth and death. Natha iti, he who is the master, he who is the lord of everyone, the whole creation, every living being in every species. Natheti, Nagashayaneti, he as Mahavishnu who rests on a serpent bed, Nagashayana. Jagannivaseti, Jagannivasa iti, he who lives in the whole world, in all forms, in every atom, in the hearts of all living beings, in every direction. Or you can also say innumerable universes live in him. Iti, after saying all of this, alapinam pratidinam kuru ma mukunda. O Mukunda, O giver of liberation, pratidinam kuru. You please make me sing these names every day. So this is the general meaning. Now let's discuss further. The first name under consideration is Sri Vallabha. You see, the Lord is always very happy when devotees chant his names. His names can be categorized as primary names or mukhya naam and secondary names or gauna naam. The secondary names or gauna naam are those names or addresses of the Lord with respect to this world. Like when you call him as Paramatma, as he who lives in the heart of all living beings in this world, that is considered to be a secondary name. You call him as Jagatpati or Jagatpate, or you call him as Jagadishwara, the Lord of the material creation. So that is a Gauna Naam, that is a secondary name. Or you just call him Param Brahma, he who is the Supreme Lord, or Brahman, he who is light manifestation, energy manifestation, Shakti potency is present in all directions. These are Gaunanam or secondary names. But when you call him with respect to the spiritual world, when you call him with respect to his associates, like for example, when you call him Subal Sakha, the friend of Subal, or when you call him as Golokapati, the master or the lord of Goloka Vrindavan, or Vrindavan Chandra, the full moon of Vrindavan, or when you call him Dwarkadish, you call him Ayodhyapati, Vaikunteshwar. All of these are Mukhyanam. They are with respect to the eternal abode. It just gets more and more finer. The Mukhyanam again has two categorizations, Aishwarya Mukhyanam and Madhurya Mukhyanam, which means those primary names which are in the mood of reverence or those primary names which are in the mood of intimacy. So if you call him as the Lord of the spiritual world, that would be an example of Aishwarya Mai Mukhyanam. So that's a reverential primary name. But if you call him as Yashodanandan, the son of Yashoda, or you call him as Radha Vallabh, Radha Raman, Radha Shamsundar, Radha Gopinath, they are all Madhuryamai Mukhyanam. They are primary names which are dipped with intimacy in connection to his devotees. Therefore, when we sing He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. In the first half of the verse, we glorify Krishna. The second half, we glorify Radharani. So, in this discussion, in the context of this discussion, let's consider the first half. Hey Krishna, O Krishna, Karuna Sindho, O Ocean of Mercy. So that's a secondary name because you're calling him as he who is full of compassion for the fallen, suffering souls. Deenabandho, friend of the poor. Jagatpate, Lord of the world. They are all secondary names. But then you see Gopesha, oh, he who is the dear friend of the Gopas. Gopika Kanta, he who is the Lord and Master of the Gopis. And specifically Radha Kanta, he who is the eternal master of Srimati Radharani. Namostute, I bow down to you. So you can see this series of the string of verses or string of names in this verse, it goes systematically from the secondary names of Krishna towards the primary names of Krishna up to his connection with Srimati Radharani. So King Kulashekara in this verse, he starts off by calling Krishna Shri Vallabha. Shri Vallabha could refer, as we mentioned, could refer to Lord Vishnu, who is the master of Lakshmi Devi. Shri is Lakshmi Devi. Or it can also refer to Sitaya Pataye Namaha, to Ramachandra, who is the master of Sita Devi. And Shri ultimately refers to Shri Radharani in the Vraj conception, in the mood of Vrindavan. Lakshmi means Lakshmi Devi, but Lakshmi also means inner satisfaction. Lakshmi also means Bhakti Shakti. So you're Lakshmi Vallabha. In fact, in the Gopi Geet, the gopis have said that Te Janmana He Krishna Vraja Adhikam Jayati. That Krishna, after you have appeared, Vrindavan has become more glorious because Shrayata Indira Shashvadatrahi. Lakshmi resides here in full potency. And this can have many meanings. One is after Krishna has appeared, the milk production, the milk sweet production, and all the different products of milk have increased. So that's basically Nanda Maharaj's business. Lakshmi has prospered. Or Lakshmi meaning inner satisfaction and joy. Everyone's become so much more happier after Krishna's appeared. Or it could mean Lakshmi Devi, who resides in Belwan with the aspiration to enter the Rasa Leela of Radha and Krishna, has taken shelter of Vrindavan. So the Supreme Lord is Sri Vallabha, Lakshmi Vallabha. In Vrindavan, he's called Radha Vallabha. He is the dear Lord of Radharani. Srila Sanatan Goswami, he glorifies Krishna with the names of Radharani as Radha Radhita Radhesha Radhika Pranavallabha Radha Ramana Vande Tvam Radhika Prema Nirjita. Srila Sanatan Goswami Pad sings that Radha Aradhita Radhesha. You are the Lord of Radharani. You are worshipped by Radharani. Radhika Pranavallabha. You are very dear to the heart, the life of Radharani. And Radharamana Vande Tvam. O Radharaman, who frolics in the groves of Vrindavan with Srimati Radharani. Radhika Prema Nirjita, who is bound by the ropes of pure devotional service of Srimati Radharani. In fact, he who even worships Srimati Radharani, to that Radharaman I bow down. So this is the elaboration on the first name, Sri Vallabha. Now the second name after Sri Vallabha is Varada. As we know, the Supreme Lord in South India is called Varada Raja Swami. He's Varada Raja. He's the best among, or the king among, those who give the benediction to the devotees. Varam Dadati. Whenever the syllable da comes in, that refers to Dadati, to give. You can see the cloud is called Jalada, or Payoda. Jala means water. So Jalam Dadati iti Jalada, that, or Nirada, that which gives water again, the cloud. Or Saraswati Devi is sometimes called Sharada or Harshada. Harsham Dadati iti Harshada, she who gives joy to her devotees. So here the Lord is called Varada, he who fulfills all the benedictions. But it is important to note that the Lord doesn't necessarily fulfill benedictions which we may desire, but which would be detrimental for our spiritual advancement. He definitely gives those boons which are favorable for our attainment of his lotus feet. स्थानाभिलाषी तपसि स्थितोऽहं त्वां प्राप्तवान् देवमुनीन्द्रगुह्यं काचन विचिन्वन्नपि दिव्यरत्नं स्वामिन् कृतार्थोऽस्मि वरं न याचे. In the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, we see that he aspired for a material kingdom bigger than his father and his grandfather and even his great grandfather. And the Lord did give it to him. But how did it happen? He prayed in the middle of the forest in Madhuvan and had direct audience of the Supreme Lord. And when Mahavishnu, Chaturbhuji Mahavishnu, appeared before Dhruva Maharaj in the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, it is quoted, he laments and expresses his heart's realization to the Lord that Kachan Vichinvan Api Divyaratnam, my Lord, I came to you who's like a self-effulgent touchstone diamond, and I was begging for broken pieces of glass. So he considers material opulence, which was the main reason why he went deep into the forest to find God. He considers that to be as insignificant as broken pieces of glass. Glass stands no comparison to a diamond, and also glass, when it's broken pieces of glass, they are actually more detrimental to touch because one may bleed, one may hurt oneself. So material aspirations are like that. They stand no comparison to spiritual fulfillment, and in fact, on coming closer to them, one only bleeds with grief. The Lord definitely did fulfill the desire of Dhruva Maharaj by giving him the kingdom, but he gave it after Dhruva Maharaj understood and had this realization that I don't want anything material, my Lord. Whatever you give me, whatever you give me, which is good for me, is what I want. In my best interest is what you will give me. And that's all that I want. I don't want you to fulfill just because I am asking for something. I want you to give me things which are actually good for me. Even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is described, Ami bignya ei murkhe bishay kene dibo, nije charanamrita diye bishay bhulaiba. Ama bhaje bishay mage ei boda murkh. If somebody comes to Krishna and asks for material things, it's not wrong. But Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say it is like coming to a king and asking for dead man's ashes, palm full of dead man's ashes. Well, the king can give much more than that. The king can give much more than that. But what to do? That's the highest limit of our aspiration. When we come to God, when we come to Krishna, we should ask for His eternal love, His eternal service. But when we ask for material temporary things from Him, that's like coming to a king who is ready to give half his kingdom. But we are just happy in receiving a palm full of dead man's ashes from the graveyard. The example given could be, let's say if there's a child who goes into a toffee store, he wants some candy or some toffee. He puts his hand into a toffee jar. He can only lift as much as his palm size. That's all, maybe four, maybe five candies or toffees that his palm can fit in. But imagine if he tells the shop owner that you put your palm in and you give me as much as you want to give me. Definitely with a bigger palm, he will be able to give more. Now, please don't ask me how with a bigger palm he would take his palm out. That's a different question. But in the context of our example, bigger palm means more toffees. So a devotee coming to Krishna and asking for something material, nothing wrong. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Bhagavatam describes whether we are desirous of liberation or we have material desires or we just want bhakti, irrespective of whatever our calling may be. If we come to the Supreme Lord with intense fervor of devotional practice, then it's all good, no problem. But even among that, in our material conditioning, when we are tossed by the waves of duality, what do we know what is right and what is wrong? What we may ask the Supreme Lord may actually be detrimental to us in the long run. So, better to tell Krishna that if you so desire, you may give me whatever is in my best interest. I don't want to ask anything. So that's like a child telling the owner of the store that instead of me putting my little palm into the toffee jar, you give me, you put your hand in and you give me what's best for me. So Krishna is like this. He's Varadaraj. He's Varada. He's the best. He's the king among the givers of benediction, but he only gives that which is in our ultimate well-being. What is ultimately good for us. That's what Krishna will give. Just like if the child asks the mother to give a knife in hand or permission to put his hand into fire, the mother will never allow the child because that's not in the best interest. However fascinating the flames of the fire may be, or the sharpness of the edge of a knife may be, the mother will never allow that child, who's very dear to her heart, to touch those fascinating flames of fire because that's ultimately not good for the child. So Krishna is Aham Bija Pradapita. He is the ultimate well-wishing friend and the supreme protective father. So he gives benedictions, he gives boons, which are ultimately conducive for spiritual advancement, which actually brings us to his lotus feet. So he's Varada. Therefore, what should we pray? We should pray to Krishna for bhakti. And in Mukundamala Stotra, you can see Nishchala Bhakti Rastu. Krishna, may I have the bond of pure love at your lotus feet. May I serve you with all my heart. This should be our prayer. This should be our prayer. Shri Vallabheti, Varadeti, Daya Pareti. He is the ultimate limit of mercy. And this is because Bhakta Priyeti. He is very dear to the devotees. In the Bhagavatam, it is described, Aham Bhakta Paradhino Yasvatantra Ivodvija Sadhu Hi Grastridayam Bhaktai Bhakta Janapriya. In the ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the context of Ambarish Maharaj's pastimes, Krishna makes or Vishnu makes a very bold proclamation in the presence of Durvasa Muni that I am bound by the love of my devotees. And what to speak of bound by the love of my devotees? I am bound by the love of the devotees of my devotees. My devotees live in my heart and I live in their heart and they don't know anything but me and I don't know anything but them. This is my relation with my devotees. So Krishna is Bhakta Priya. He is very dear to the devotees. He's very, very dear. This is why in the Bhagavad Gita, although Krishna speaks about Karma Yoga, he speaks about Dhyana Yoga or Jnana Yoga, but he doesn't write verses after verses glorifying a Jnani. He doesn't give verses after verses glorifying a Karma Yogi. But you can see in the 12th chapter, from verse 13 onwards of Bhagavad Gita, about 8 verses, Krishna keeps saying, Sabhakta, that devotee, Sachame Priyaha, Yomad Bhakta Same Priyaha, that devotee, that Bhakta is very dear to me. Devotees are very dear to Krishna, very, very dear to Krishna. There's a saying that we can face a lot of heat on our head, especially when we're walking on a summer afternoon. We may be able to face a lot of and tolerate a lot of heat on our head, but if you're told to walk barefoot, we wouldn't be able to. We can tolerate more heat or sun rays on our head compared to the heat that we can tolerate on our feet. And this has been our experience, all of our experience. If somebody gives us shoes and doesn't give us a cap, that's fine. But if somebody gives us a cap but doesn't give us shoes, that could be troublesome. The heat could be a little extreme. And same for Krishna. If somebody throws in hot summer afternoon rays of criticism on him, he is ready to tolerate. But at his lotus feet, the devotees live. If somebody gives heat to the devotees in the form of criticizing the Vaishnavas, hurting the Vaishnavas, that's like giving heat to the feet of Krishna, because the pure devotees live at the lotus feet. So just like we can tolerate heat at the feet, although we can tolerate some heat on the head, Krishna can tolerate some criticism or some offense committed to him, but he can tolerate the offenses that are committed to the devotees who live at his lotus feet. Dayapara. He is very merciful. His heart melts like butter when devotees are in pain. Gajendra called out, and the Supreme Lord manifested. Narayana Khila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Nama Atma Pradipaya Sakshine Paramatmane. Nama Giram Viduraya Manasaschetasamapi. The elephant trumpeted beautiful, unparalleled, choicest poetry in Sanskrit, which becomes part of the 3rd chapter of the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very beautiful verses. Very beautiful. In fact, once when I asked my Guru Maharaj of all the prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam, which prayer should we regularly recite? And even before I completed my question, my Guru Maharaj said, Gajendra Stuti, the prayers of Gajendra. Gajendra called out, and the Supreme Lord came. He cut and liberated the crocodile first, and then released Gajendra not just from the crocodile bite in the pond, but the crocodile bite of material life. How wonderful. Dayapara. Hari sada vase tatra yatra bhagavata jana gayanti bhakti bhavena harir namaiva kevalam. Krishna eternally resides where his devotees with love call out to him. Whether it is Draupadi, Govinda Dwarkavasin Krishna Gopi Janapriya in the Kuru Sabha, Agre Kurunam Athapandavanam Dushasanena Ritavastra Kesha, Krishna Tada Kroshad Ananyanatha Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Whether it is Draupadi or whether it is Gajendra calling out in dire emergency, the Lord rushed to the scene. Dayapareti, Bhakta Priyeti, and Bhavalunthana Kovideti. He is expert in delivering those who are stuck in this world. Tesham aham samuddhartam mrityu samsara sagarat. In the Gita, Krishna says, when those who drown in the ocean of suffering call out to me, Tesham aham samuddharta. I lift them up swiftly from the ocean of repeated birth and death. Bhava lunthana kovideti. He's expert. Kovida means expert. Bhava lunthana kovideti. Krishna's expert in wrapping up the cycle of birth and death in the life of a living entity. As soon as we call out to him, he is ready to liberate us. And what to speak of calling out to him, just remembering him. Yasya smarana matrena janma samsara bandhanat vimuchyate namastasmai Vishnave Prabha Vishnave. Just remembering him wraps up the cycle of birth and death. No more repeated birth. If you remember him, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravrtinorjuna Mamupaiti tu Kauntaya Punarjanmana Vidyate. In the Gita, Krishna says, once you come to me, Yatkatva na nivartante, you will not return again. Just remembering him Om pavitra pavitro va sarvavastam gato viva yas smaret pundarikaksham sa bahyabhyantara shuchi. Just remembering Vishnu, just remembering Sri Hari purifies one inside and out, and one becomes liberated. Whether it is Valmiki Muni, whether it is Mrigari, their pasts were sinful, but the future became bright because they took shelter of Krishna. नारायण नाम नरो नराणां प्रसिद्ध चौर कथित पृथिव्याम अनेक जन्मार्जित पाप संचयम हरति अशेषम श्रुति मात्रमेव. The Puranas describe just by chanting the name of Narayana, Shruti Matram, actually just hearing the name of Narayana is sufficient enough to liberate us from the cycle of birth and death. Yan nama amangalagnam shrutam atagaditam. Bhagavatam describes that by chanting and hearing the name of the Lord, one becomes liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Yan nama shruti matrena puman bhavati nirmalaha. One becomes cleansed, purified, eligible, and enters the eternal kingdom of Goloka Vrindavan just by hearing the name of the Lord. He is Bhavaluntana Kovideti. And Natheti, he is the master of everyone. He is the Lord of everyone. Dyausha Chandrarkha Nakshatra Khamdisha Bhu Mahodadhi Vasudevasya Viryena Vidrutani Mahatmana Sasurasura Gandharva Yaksha Uraga Rakshasam Jagat Pashe Sarvamidam Krishnasya Sacharacharam. In the Vishnu Sahasranam, Bhishma Dev, he says that all the directions, the outer space, the cosmic creations, the sun, the moon, the star constellations, the oceans, the mountains, the different planets, the devatas, the asuras, the kinnaras, the kimpurushas, everyone, they ultimately are part and parcel and they're servants of one master. And that Vasudev, Bhishma Dev on his departing bed says, is present before me. He is the Lord of everything moving and non-moving. So he's Natha. To the north, he is Badrinatha. To the south, you can see he is Ramanatha. And then to one side, he's Jagannatha. And to the other side, he's Dwarkanatha. Krishna is always Natha. He's Vrajanatha. He's Gopinatha. He's Radhanatha. He's the master. So Natheti, Nagashayaneti, Nagashayana. The Supreme Lord Sri Hari, Sri Vishnu, is resting on a serpent bed. Shantakaram Bhujaka Shayanam. Look at the contrast. We sleep on a normal bed, but the Lord sleeps on a serpent bed and still Shant Akaram. He is very peaceful. His form is also very peaceful. Namaha Shantaya Ghoraya Mudhaya Gunadharmine Nirvisheshaya Samyaya Namo Jnana Ghanaya Cha. Gajendra is also confirmed. So many different avatars. Some are Rudra, some are Mudha, but my Lord, you are Shanta. You can see how peaceful the Lord is, always smiling. Chayayam parijatasya hema simhasanopari asinanam budhashyamam ayataksham alankritam chandrananam chaturbahum shrivat sankita vakshasam rukmini satyabhamabhyam sahitam krishnamashraye. How wonderfully, peacefully the Lord has been described. Chayayam parijatasya, on the shade under a parijata tree. Hema simhasanopari, sitting on top of a golden throne in the shade of a parijata tree. Asinanam budhashyamam ayataksham alankritam, very beautiful lotus-like eyes and cloud-like complexion, very wonderfully decorated with ornaments. Chandrananam, his face is like a moon. Chaturbahum, four-handed form of Krishna in Dwaraka. Shrivat Sankita Vakshasam, and on his chest he has a Shrivatsa mark representing Lakshmi. And to one side is Rukmini Devi, on one side is Satyabhama. Rukmini Satyabhama Abhyam Sahitam Krishna Mashraye. Krishna is like this, so peaceful all the time. Not just when he's with Rukmini and Satyabhama, he's also very peaceful when he's on a serpent bed, when he's sleeping on Anantashesh, when he's coiled up on Adishesh. Very peaceful. This teaches us that only those who are equipoised. You see the two examples we saw, Krishna sitting with Rukmini and Satyabhama and smiling, and at the same time as Mahavishnu is sleeping on a serpent bed and still smiling. Those who can smile and be peaceful through the dualities of life. Santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchaya maya arpita mano buddhi yo mad bhakta same priya. Adveshta sarvabhutana maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara sama dukkha sukha kshami. Krishna says those who are free from any form of bias or attachment or hatred and have come to the point of equanimity, to be equal through duality, those are the ones who can attain his abode. Those who are Shantakaram, whether with Rukmini Satyabhamabhyam or whether with Bhujaka Shayanam, through happiness or distress, those who are Shanta Akritihi, those who have a peaceful demeanor, Prashantatma Jitendriyaha, Muktanam Api Siddhanam Narayana Parayana Sudurlabha Prashant Atma Kotishvapi Mahamune. It's very rare to find a personality who can be very peaceful by the mercy of the Lord. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchanai sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura. When somebody performs bhakti to Sri Hari, all good qualities come and the person becomes very peaceful. Natheti nagashayaneti, O Lord who sleeps on a serpent bed, I am also sleeping on the serpent of material desires. Just like one thorn can remove another thorn, I am remembering you who sleeps on a serpent bed so that I, who have this mentality to sleep on the serpent bed of material desires, I can overcome this tendency of mine. May this remembrance kick out the thorn of my material desires. Natheti Nagashayaneti Jagannivaseti, he who lives in all directions. Goswami Tulsidas ji has said, Siya Ram Mai Sab Jag Jani, Karahu Pranam Jodi Jugpani, Mangat Tulsidas Karajore, Vasai Ram Siya Manasamore. He folds his palms and he says, I bow down to all directions because, my Lord, you manifest in this world in all directions. In even Manigriva and Nalakuver, the two sons of Kubera have prayed in the Bhagavatam, Drishte Satam Darshane Astu Bhavat Tanunam. In that verse of Canto 10, chapter 10, text 38, they say, may our tongue be absorbed in glorifying you. Vani Gunanu Kathane Shravanau Kathaya, may our ears be absorbed in hearing you, your Katha, your holy name. Hastau cha karmasu, may our hands be absorbed in serving you. Manastava padayorna smrityam, and may our mind be absorbed in remembering your lotus feet. Tava nivasa jagat praname, drishti satam darshanestu bhavattanunam. May our head bow down in all directions in this world, seeing that to be your resting place. And may our eyes constantly look at the devotees in whose hearts you live in full potency. So there also you see, may we bow down, Manigriva Nalakuver say, in all directions, seeing that to be your resting place. Jananivas, the Lord lives in all living beings. He lives in all directions. He lives in this world as the Virata Purusha. At the same time, worlds live in him. When Krishna ate the dirt and then he opened his mouth, he showed the whole universe to his mother in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam to show Mother Yashoda, oh Maya, you always complain that I'm taking a long time to drink milk. You please open my mouth and see. I am not the only one drinking your milk. The whole universe, many universes live in me, and because they live in me and you are my mother, you also become their mother. Therefore, they all want remnant of your milk. And this is why when I'm drinking your milk, I'm taking more time. It's not just me alone. It's for the residents of all the planets who live in me. This is why Krishna opened his mouth and showed the universe to his mother. After calling these names, Mukundamala Stotra, in the first verse, King Kulashekara says, Pratidinam alapinam. May I do alap. May I sing these names every day. But I don't have the power to do it by myself because I'm distracted. I don't have taste. Anarthas and offenses are there in my heart. So therefore, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the second verse of Shikshashtakam prays, Durdaivam idrisham iha jani na anuraga. Because I don't have taste, I don't have inclination to chant your names. Therefore, you, my Lord, alapinam pratidinam kurumam mukundaha. You make me sing. And pratidinam, every day, regulatedly, with love, with attachment, with consistency. May I sing these names, my Lord. Please empower me to chant. So, this is a very positive, affirmative prayer for us before japa, that we pray to the Supreme Lord, we glorify the names, we call out to Him, and we pray, Krishna, you please make me chant your names every single day with affection. With this, we end today's session, only to continue with the next verse in the future. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.